Ghost Las Vegas Regional. Bruce, what have you seen from Nick Waugh since moving him to the wing? It seems like his wall play the last couple of games has been really strong.
Yeah, good puck possession in the O-zone, which he's always had. He's always had that part. For us, the transition would be getting pucks off the wall to center with speed and dealing with confrontation from the D on pinches, stuff that you're not used to as a centerman. A little less ice to cover defensively. Probably got to get the engine running quicker because you're not always moving. So there's adjustments there. He's done a good job with it. I've always said I think he's more natural at the center position. We know that, but that's the ask right now, and he's been good for us. And I think he helps that line. He's going to the net. We use him against good lines most of the time, or offensive lines. So having another centerman that can take a draw on the right side versus, Carly's good on a strong side, so that's not a huge concern. But it's just one more thing that he can help bring to a line and playing the wing as well.
Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Bruce, the matchup that you went after often last night, again, Carlson's line against the Hintz line, it ends up 2-2. They get one kind of fortunate bounce off the kick plate there. What do you think of the matchup? How do you feel it went when you had it and when you wanted to go for it?
Well, if we're neutral against that line, listen, we want to outplay them, outscore them, obviously. But if neutral's not a bad thing, because now it becomes a 3-line game, then our depth against their depth, right? And we've bet on our depth the whole playoffs. So far, so good. But at the end of the day, whoever's out there against Hintz, we know how dangerous. Listen, he's playing like McDavid. I mean, he is, and we have to be mindful of that and make sure we keep it in check. And last night, he got some opportunities, so we'll look at how we can shut him down, whoever's against him. But it starts with Carly. That kind of worked itself into the playoffs in the Edmonton series. We used Stevie in that as well. Don't mind Jack in that role. Our fourth line will play against anybody. So at the end of the day, if that ends up being the matchup, we're going to hope that they can shut them down or at least counter them. And that's kind of what happened last night. I think both lines had their moments. And at the end of the day, we rely on our other lines to outscore their other lines, and happened to work for last night. And I think that's what's been good about us, Dan. It's not always one line. It's been different people contributing, and that's why we're ahead and still playing.
Danny Webster, Las Vegas Sun. I know it happens a lot throughout the course of a postseason, but to get Teddy into the lineup in a crucial Game 5 and for him to play as well as he has and for that line to play as well, I know that the fourth line has always been crucial, but for him specifically to come in and play as well as he has, how vital has that been and how crucial has that been as far as the coaching staff to keep him ready for a situation like that?
Well, it's a credit to him for staying ready first and foremost. We're out there, we're organizing practice, etc. Typically, he's worked a lot with Mish and Ryan and keeping his game going in small groups because we just haven't practiced a lot as a team. And he kept himself ready so that if he did get his opportunity, he wouldn't be behind, and he hasn't been. So that's a credit to the individual. He's a high character guy. We knew that coming out of Pittsburgh. He played key games for them, played playoff hockey for them. When we lost Nick, that was an area we were hoping to address, and we did. Krim found a perfect fit for us. He's been a good teammate when he's not in. He's a professional. He's kept working, and now it did allow us to move Nick up in this particular case, and I think it's been good for the whole lineup. Mike Amadio ends up being the odd guy out who played well for us too, but it's just it's a product of having a lot of good pieces and that's the way we went against Edmonton. I think we talked about that already, and he earned his right to stay in, so we'll keep it that way as long as it works for us. Big goal for him. Happy for him. He didn't get a good celebration because the way it happened so fast, you're never sure how those are going to play out. But at the end of the day, it was a very timely goal for us.
Bruce, Darren Millard, Vegas Golden Knights. You talked about all the information that was available on both sides from a coaching staff perspective, but Game 1 was still going to be the primer. Did it play out the way you thought it would, or what did you learn?
I think there was a lot of stuff they stuck to, and they shouldn't. And I'd say the same about us. We don't want to start deviating from our game until we feel it's not helping us win. And I think that's the way teams feel, especially this time of the year. It's gotten you this far, and I think for the most part they'll keep doing that. I think one loss or one win doesn't deter you either way. you just go back and look at it and say, okay, what can we do to counter some of that stuff now that we've seen it live? And I think both teams will look at that. We saw some O-zone situations where they tried to choke off plays in a hurry that, if we're quick with the puck when we're supporting appropriately, maybe we can get an attack against it if they don't choke it off. Those are the things we thought about before and saw more of it last night. And, some of it worked out for us. Some of it we're going to keep working on. I'm sure they'll do the same. So, but I saw two teams I thought were true to their form. How much that changes as the series goes along, we'll probably be discussing it tomorrow again around 3-4 o'clock, right? That's usually what happens. And special teams weren't a big factor last night. There was it was a fairly clean hockey game, I thought, for the most part. I expect the physicality to ramp up only because that's typically what happens over the course of time. You develop a little bit of a dislike for the other team, and so that's my expectation for tomorrow, that they'll try to get back to their game and play it longer and better, and we'll do the same. That's until something tips the scale significantly either way.
The last series, Bruce, Gary Lawless, Vegas Golden Knights. The last series was all about response early on. And one team would win, the next team would respond, and went that way for the first 4 until you were able to win the last 2. Would you like to get that maximum response from your own group earlier in this series?
Well, I would. We want to keep getting better. That was our goal at the start of the playoffs. They've lost game 1 in every one of their series, and they're still playing, so I don't think it's going to phase them. They're going to address, obviously, what they need to do better so they can continue their path where they tie it up. We're going to talk about, okay, here's the areas last night we were good at, and here's the areas where they push back on. So I just think response is the beauty of playoffs. That's it, right? The other team, that's why you're still playing, because you've got a lot of character, and you're going to be upset because you didn't get your best game. So that'll be our goal, to manage that and elevate our game. And we haven't gone up 2-0 either. So for us, that's a bit of a test as well, right? Let's learn from our previous series. Now, like I said, we're playing against a very good opponent, so just be ready for it.
Is Bruce, Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Do you look at William Karlsson and the way you use him as if he's sort of your Patrice Bergeron?
Well, he's become more of that, because don't forget, I'm new here. We're getting the start, but as the year went on, I start to realize he has a lot of those attributes, and I've said that, and I believe in it. So yeah, now it's starting to get a little more of that situation where, okay, if there's a line out there that we see that's a matchup benefit for us, or then Carly can handle those. We're doing video this morning, right? And what the term I used to use with Berg is he put out a lot of fire, for his wingers. And his wingers, one scored 60 goals this year. The other one's a 100-point guy. So they're good hockey players, very good hockey players. But he becomes a little bit of the defensive conscious of the line. He's always been that guy. And I see that in Carly. He's on attack mode, scored 2 goals last night, but he scored them from getting to good spots, and both spots he would have been able to recover and put out a fire too. And he never gets himself in bad spots where he can't play a 200-foot game, rarely, So that's the comparison to me. He's good in the circle and plays the bumper on the power play on our second unit, and probably doesn't get enough time to make a relevant comparison in that role. But yes, there's a lot of similarities between the two. I didn't hear about it as much coming from the East, but I'm seeing it with my own eyes now, and I think our teammates certainly appreciate it, and so we're using them more in those roles, or in that specific role, I guess.